attention for a sec, jewellery. But for those in the crowd, many thank yous for attending. My name is Steve McMenamin, and today I'm going to be discussing why Queensland is Australia's #1 hotspot for property investment. So, introducing House and Land Co. I'll get you to click. House and Land Co. is a national property company. Do you mind clicking? Yeah. A little clicker doesn't work. One moment, guys. Anyway, I'll continue on. So, House and Land Co. We're a national company. We've helped over the last 20 years 1,100 families purchase over $1 billion in property. We provide full turnkey solutions, and I want you to think of us like a builder broker. What we do is we specialise in positive geared real estate rather than negative geared properties. We focus on a property investment checklist and making sure that we've identified the 10 key factors which you need to purchase a brand new property. And of course today we're going to actually focus on why invest in Queensland. Okay, I'll get you to click.
Fantastic, thanks for that, Steve. My name's Dan Hillier. I'm the National Sales and Marketing Manager for Homecorp, obviously based up in Queensland as well. Homecorp is a developer builder which commenced in 2004, owned CEO by Ron Bakir. We are 51% also owned by Massar Homes, parent company to Toyota as well. We are a developer builder construction company, and we look at the recent numbers. For the HIA numbers, 15th largest builder in the country and second largest builder in Queensland.
Okay, so the property investment checklist. Basically, when identifying a brand new property, and we want to thank Open Life for having us here today, but there's 10 key infrastructure and checklists that you need to tick off. Most importantly, most people are always looking at location, so ideally within 30 to 35 kilometres of the CBD. You need to look at infrastructure projects such as rail, bus, the community projects that are coming in there as well, shopping centres. Of course, some people like the Dan Murphy's not too far away. But we need to really look at economic drivers. So you don't want to have one driver just driving the industry. For example, agriculture. You want to have agriculture, mining, maybe some FIFO if it's a mining town, but we need to be looking at the stability of the community. And really what grows that is population growth and size. So we're typically investing and suggesting our clients buy in population areas with over 100,000 people in the area. They need to be looking at new job creation, what's coming to the area. For example, we've got projects in the other regions that have over $1 billion coming into the area. And most importantly, it's all about market cycle and timing. We know that time invested is the best investment that you can make. So with that said, what we look at is in Queensland is the golden triangle. So think of this as your magic, your crystal ball where you really want to buy. If you think about Brisbane, if you've been to Brisbane before, we really want to be working between Brisbane and Gold Coast. And the reason for that is if you're working in the city and you want to find that you need to be 30 kilometres away, you get the best of lifestyle and rental yield as well. What we're also finding is 75,000 people, both from Melbourne and Sydney, moved up to Queensland last year. I think we know why, apart from the beautiful warm weather, but really it's affordability. A lot of people are selling up in Melbourne for 1 to 1.5 million and buying in Queensland for 5 to 700,000, therefore creating themselves a lifestyle. If you're an investor, the reason you want to be up in Queensland is 5% yield or greater. Ideally, we're suggesting clients purchase at 5%, which basically means more money coming in than money going out. Going inland, there's places such as Ipswich and Toowoomba. These areas should not be underestimated. Think of these like a Geelong, a Ballarat or Werribee, and the reason for that is they are inland, but they have access to army bases and RAF and all that as well. And what that does is provides really strong growth. Over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Much like you completing your due diligence, we're doing the checklist as well as a land developer and builder, following the fundamentals of population growth, investment spending by the government, employment, transport and education. Looking towards the triangle that you mentioned before, you can see us pretty widespread in those locations as well. We are heavily invested as the land developer and the construction company as well. we're roughly around 50-50 from owner-occupiers to investors, which is always good to see. And I guess within Queensland as well, we're now investing more than about 60-70% of our sales coming out of that region. We're also into Adelaide, which has been great for us, and down in New South Wales as well. But for right now, we're concentrating and focused on the southeast Queensland market.
Perfect. Go in here. This is why Queensland, you can do that.
So Queensland for us, and we touched on it before, Steve, why Queensland? Queensland typically, well, if I look at southeast Queensland, has always been a yield-driven, ecosystem up there. 5% yield, as you mentioned before, which is fantastic for your positive cash flow properties. We've also, had that strong, steady growth, which has always been between that 3 to 5% year in, year out, yield-friendly. Over the last 12 months, we've now seen over 30% growth. So I think that was a long time coming, and a welcomed advantage for all the buyers that have been in there. And I think as we head through to the 2032 Olympics, we'll see that growth continue through infrastructure and investment spending by the government. Population is probably one of the most important ones for us, playing with supply and demand here. And if you can look at the numbers, our change has almost doubled what New South Wales and Victoria has seen. And I think, moving on to the next slide, you'll be able to see that interstate migration. I think it's a direct correlation that you can see from Victoria and New South Wales leaving here and coming up to sunny Queensland. And I think that's, really was evident during COVID as well. And as we moved into COVID, we saw, the effects in the rental market. And I remember back looking at that 2020 time, and when COVID was hitting us, the first people to get out of the market, evidently got to say, were the investors. They were the first ones that got the shaky boots and jumped out, those poor investors, because they made the wrong decision. And then what we saw is the owner-occupiers really come into the market as we had more disposable incomes, were spending a lot more time at home, and really that owner-occupier market flooded and just went strength to strength. And what we actually saw during that is less investors being in the market means less tenancies in the market. So rent decided to actually just climb straight up. So we saw a really good growth period for those lucky investors that are there.
And with that said, we're seeing at the moment around about 15 to 20 applications per property, which is really driving the property prices up. If you're looking in Melbourne, you sit around about that 3.2%. And I've personally helped 1,100 families just in Melbourne alone. But now we've made this the switch to Queensland, and that's really just due to the fact that we can get the best rental yield for the lowest amount of investment. For example, 18 months ago, I had one client that came in, and he's purchased in this time now 4 properties, and he's about $800,000 up. And all he needed to do to begin with was a $70,000 deposit. So we've used the equity to create that. So we're obviously today, we're over at C23, and we're going to be going through some packages and pricing later. But really, I guess Queensland's been in the news. It's really sort of popping back up. And obviously what you're talking about there is the Brisbane Olympics. What else is happening in Queensland, Dan?
Well, I guess it's picking those fundamental locations that we're seeing, the population growth, we're seeing the infrastructure spending, we're seeing a lot of government spending at the moment, and we're seeing that in a wide variety of different industries, which has been fantastic to have it diversified. You do get some cities, if I pull out, say, Perth and that are reliant on 1 or 2 majors, and there's a wide spread that we're seeing within southeast Queensland. We'll just go to the next slide, and I'll go through the rental rate rising, which has been fantastic. You will see right on looking at 2020, 2021, that's when we started seeing that COVID, affect us up there and those rents going up. The real positive thing has been, over the last 12 months, we've seen, that 25-30% capital growth and pricing going. We're now seeing, the rent rising with that, coming up. So we are actually getting back up towards that 5% rental yield, which is so important as, the rate rises continue to happen. So we're really positive in there. And if I just jump to the next slide, we wanted to pick one of our subject corridors, and Logan for us has been known, proven, trusted. It's been somewhere we've been heavily involved for a long time. We've seen a lot of gender regentrification. It's right within, Brisbane Gold Coast corridor moving up. Gold Coast, we're all aware, the sunny Gold Coast. I think everyone from Melbourne ended up moving up there during COVID. The vacancy rates sit at about 0.06 on the Gold Coast. So Supply and demand, where that meets in a vacancy rate, is 3.3%. So that's what they call an equilibrium market. So well underneath that is where you're going to see those rising prices coming in. And for us, Logan, hits all the numbers. It's somewhere we've got, a lot of big land developments. We find the owner-occupiers, the first home buyers, and I think mostly affordability has been the big one. We're seeing packages from...
I also think the biggest thing that's standing out in Logan, for anybody that's purchasing land in Melbourne at the moment, we're seeing blocks as small as 200 square metres and 300 square metres. In Logan, still doing the 448s, the 500, the 512s. So you're seeing, and the trick is here, is the money's not actually created from property. It's actually the land that is the key, okay? So, we're partnering up with the builder, but it's about the location. It's the square metres. The bigger the square metres, the bigger the return, the bigger the long term. Obviously, if we're building a brand new home, we want to be looking at the 4 bedrooms, 2 living areas, and obviously maximising that. But it's really the land that we want to be looking at long term. Probably the most exciting thing about Logan really is just that the proximity to the beach, proximity to Brisbane, proximity to, also back down the Gold Coast. But what it does is it gives people the ability to have lifestyle without the sacrifice of spending all that money in the inner city. We'll go to the next one here.
The next few slides are just showing the spending, as I've mentioned before, and job creation in there. But I think if you are looking to go through a little bit more detail, I'd recommend you come down to the booth, have a conversation with us. It's not just this corridor, we're all over southeast Queensland with other places as well. More than happy to have a chat about market conditions. Builders, I think there's a lot of things, a lot of questions about builders. Is your builder safe? Is my home going to be built? The rising prices, the fixed prices. There's a lot of questions that I think we're happy to answer.
I think some of the things that we'll touch on here is that builder observation. So the elephant in the room. The first thing we need to know is the builder safe and secure? Is he going to be able to complete the project? As Dan was saying, is Homecorp is owned 51% by Toyota. So you've got a major company backing. So what that means, we're able to complete the build. The other thing too is I privately go through and actually inspect my clients' builds. We've got such things as 600 porcelain tiles, which are standard inclusion. Normally there are a lot of upgrades. Where a lot of people get caught is in the upgrades and the colour gallery. And now as an investor, efficiency is key. So what you need to be able to do is get a contract issued, if you can, within 48 hours to 72 hours. If you're dealing with a volume builder, sometimes, as you know, you're waiting 2 to 3 months for the contract. The issue with that is why you don't have a contract, you don't have a fixed price, you've got tender issues. The quicker you can get a fixed price contract in front of you, the quicker you can get the site, the quicker you can recirculate the money. Is there anything else you want to add on about the builders and what's happening at the moment, Dan?
I think it's just a positive thing to see other builders here, and I think I'm walking around today seeing the builders that are here, the first thing I'm asking, how are they? It's certainly been a tough time over the last 12 months in the construction industry, and we're certainly looking forward to seeing out the other side. We're excited about the future, we're excited about the market, we're excited to lay slabs and build homes.
And how many houses do you guys have on site at the moment?
Roughly just last year, just finishing the last 12 months, just over 1,200 homes that we put down. We're looking to improve that, and we've got a target of 1,440 over the next 12 months.
I guess just by a show of hands, who in the audience has actually built a new home before? Perfect. Who enjoyed it? That's a joke of the day. Now, the idea is dealing with a builder broker, somebody that takes that stress out of that process. Myself, having done 1,100 properties, what it means is we get on site, we don't just sell, but we educate. Once again, have a national business, but we're really focused on this southeast Queensland corridor. And of course, if you're trying to get into the market, Homecorp also has house and land packages just under that $500,000 mark in South Australia as well. I guess what we'll just finish off on is we're going to be doing deals over the weekend. We're very close on a couple, but really all we want to do is just get in front of you, talk to you about Southeast Queensland. We've got a heap of brochures and information that we're there to give you. Also have a new show called the New Property Show. If you're in the market and you'd like to be featured on the show, even interviewed as a client, please just come and check us out. That's filming in St Kilda every fortnight now. Dan, I just want to thank you for your time. Well, just one more thing to wrap up your summary with 2023, and I'll finalise as well.
Bigger and better and drier. I think that's appropriate after coming down from sunny Queensland to Melbourne this weekend and seeing the Yarra flow at that height. So I think that's about security for us.
Perfect, guys. So we have a heap of brochures down at C23. Come over and say hi to us. We want to thank you for your time. Enjoy the House and Land Expo. Congratulations to Open Lot on an amazing job. And I look forward to seeing your friendly faces shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everyone.
Done. Thanks, mate.
Pleasure.